The Ukraine-Russia war has seen audacious strikes, with Russia's floating fortresses, converted aircraft carriers, serving as strategic hubs. Ukraine leverages intelligence to time attacks, while Russia hosts celebrations to boost morale. In 2025, a Ukrainian strike on a Russian floating fortress during a commander celebration shifted the conflict's tide, shocking the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a perfectly timed ambush to an outcome that left everyone reeling. On a crisp evening in 2025, in the Black Sea near Sevastopol, senior Russian commanders gathered aboard a floating fortress, a retrofitted aircraft carrier, for a victory celebration. Ukraine, monitoring through intelligence, waited until all were aboard. Silent Ukrainian reconnaissance drones confirmed the targets. Suddenly, a 2,000-kilogram guided bomb from a Ukrainian jet screamed down, piercing the carrier's deck. The explosion rocked the sea, debris flying like a tempest, and the fortress collapsed in flames. Alarms blared across Russia, rescue teams scrambled, but the devastation was immense. The battlefield became a fiery abyss, setting the stage for a brutal naval air war. Russia retaliated instantly, launching Caliber missiles from nearby warships, pounding Ukrainian positions in Odessa with devastating force. Russian Su-34 jets roared in, dropping bombs on Ukrainian bunkers, shaking the city. Ukraine countered with lightning airstrikes on Russian bases in Crimea, targeting weapons depots. A ferocious air battle erupted, with jets from both sides clashing in deadly chases. Black smoke choked the sky, relentless blasts trembling the ground, transforming the Black Sea into a chaotic war zone where every moment pulsed with danger. The conflict surged into naval air warfare with terrifying speed. Russia deployed nuclear submarines to hunt Ukrainian fleets, triggering radioactive leaks and attacks. Ukraine retaliated with underwater drones, destroying Russian ships in massive subsurface explosions. In the skies, AI-driven drones from both sides collided, bursting into fireballs that illuminated the night. Ukrainian hackers breached Russia's command systems, disrupting submarine orders, while Russia crashed Ukraine's power grid. The war expanded as allies joined, turning the Black Sea into a multi-layered flashpoint where naval and air forces fused in chaos. Russia launched a massive ground offensive, aiming to seize Ukrainian ports to control the Black Sea. Tank convoys rolled into Mykolaiv, sparking ferocious urban battles. Ukraine countered with rapid ambushes, using guided missiles to incinerate Russian armor. A colossal explosion destroyed a Russian nuclear storage site, unleashing radioactive fallout and displacing thousands. Neighboring nations were drawn in, with Turkey bolstering borders. The global economy reeled as oil prices soared from disrupted shipping routes, and satellite imagery showed vast regions shrouded in smoke, marking an unprecedented phase of savage warfare. The attack's fallout triggered a global humanitarian crisis. Destroyed infrastructure forced millions to flee, flooding borders into Europe and Russia. Refugee camps overflowed, diseases spreading in the chaos as international aid struggled to keep up. The US and Europe organized emergency relief, but insurgent groups exploited the turmoil to rise. Autonomous robots cleared radioactive zones, while relief convoys delivered supplies under fire. Russia and Ukraine, facing humanitarian disaster, were forced into a temporary ceasefire, but new rebel factions emerged from the chaos. The crisis paused the war, but swelling refugee flows and persistent disease threats signaled an unstable future. The Ukraine-Russia war has seen numerous surprise attacks, with Russia's stealthy shadow ships becoming symbols of covert operations. Ukraine relies on intelligence to track these fleets, while Russia uses them to smuggle weapons and supplies. In 2025, a Ukrainian 3,000-kilogram bomb strike on Russia's main port as $200 million shadow ships docked shifted the war's tide, shocking the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a perfectly timed ambush to an outcome that left everyone reeling. On a stormy evening in 2025 in the Black Sea near Sevastopol, Russia's $200 million shadow ships, equipped with stealth technology and advanced weaponry, slipped into the main port for resupply.
Ukraine, tracking via intelligence, waited for the fleet to dock. Silent Ukrainian reconnaissance drones confirmed the targets. Suddenly, a 3,000-kilogram bomb from a Ukrainian Su-34 roared down, piercing the port's concrete defenses. The explosion shook the earth, debris flying like a tempest, and the port collapsed in a blaze. Alarms blared across Russia. Rescue teams scrambled to dig through rubble, but the devastation was immense. The battlefield became a fiery abyss, setting the stage for a brutal infrastructure war.
Russia retaliated instantly, launching Kaliber missiles from Black Sea warships, pounding Ukrainian positions in Odessa with devastating force. Russian Su-34 jets screamed in, dropping bombs on Ukrainian bunkers, rocking the city. Ukraine countered with lightning airstrikes on Russian bases in Crimea, targeting weapons depots. A ferocious air battle erupted, with jets from both sides clashing in deadly chases. Black smoke choked the sky, relentless explosions shaking the ground, transforming the Black Sea into a chaotic war zone where every moment pulsed with danger.
The conflict surged into biological warfare with terrifying speed. Enraged by the loss of their shadow fleet, Russia deployed bioengineered pathogens in Ukrainian coastal cities, causing mass illness. Ukraine retaliated by sabotaging Russian biolabs near the border, using drones to release neutralizing agents that triggered toxic leaks. In the skies, drones collided, exploding in fireballs that lit up the night. Russian hypersonic missiles targeted Odessa, but Ukraine's advanced defenses intercepted most, debris raining like a storm. The war expanded as allies joined, turning the coast into a multi-layered flashpoint where biological agents and firepower fused in chaos.
Russia launched a massive ground offensive, aiming to seize Ukrainian port cities to cut supply lines. Tank convoys rolled in, sparking ferocious urban battles. Ukraine countered with rapid ambushes, using precision bombs to obliterate Russian armor. A colossal explosion destroyed a Russian munitions depot, triggering floods and displacing thousands. Neighboring nations were drawn in, with Romania bolstering borders. The global economy reeled as grain and oil prices soared from disrupted Black Sea routes, and satellite imagery showed vast regions shrouded in smoke, marking an unprecedented phase of savage warfare.
The attack's fallout triggered a global trade crisis. Destroyed ports halted grain and energy exports, starving markets and spiking prices. Nations scrambled for alternative routes, forging emergency trade pacts. Autonomous robots cleared toxic zones, while international relief convoys faced attacks delivering aid to ravaged cities. Russia and Ukraine, battered by economic collapse, entered tense UN-mediated talks, but rogue bioweapon smugglers emerged, exploiting the chaos. The crisis paused major hostilities, but crippled trade networks and rising bio-threats signaled a volatile future.
Tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela have simmered over oil disputes and military posturing in the Caribbean. U.S. Navy warships patrol to protect interests, while Venezuela bolsters forces to assert sovereignty. In 2025, a surprise Venezuelan attack on a U.S. warship sparked a ferocious conflict, leading to a chain of events that shocked the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a bold maritime assault to an outcome that left everyone reeling. At 2 p.m. on a sweltering afternoon in 2025, the Caribbean Sea near Venezuela's coast crackled with danger. A Venezuelan destroyer, armed with anti-ship missiles, suddenly charged toward the USS Ross, a U.S. Navy destroyer on patrol to monitor oil routes. The Venezuelan ship broadcast warnings, demanding the Ross leave what Caracas claimed as territorial waters. The Ross held course, radar sweeping relentlessly, the air electric. Without warning, the Venezuelan destroyer fired a missile, the warhead screaming into the Ross's hull, unleashing a massive explosion that rocked the deck and sent a towering water column skyward. Alarms wailed, black smoke billowed, turning the Caribbean into a powder keg ready to erupt with devastating force. The attack ignited an immediate U.S. response. FA-18 jets from a nearby U.S. carrier roared in, engaging Venezuelan fighters in a whirlwind dogfight over the Caribbean sky. Missiles streaked across the horizon, a Venezuelan jet exploding in a radiant fireball that lit the skyline. The Ross fired cruise missiles, ripping through the Venezuelan destroyer's deck, sparking fires that spread wildly. Venezuela countered with anti-ship missiles, one striking a U.S. escort ship, sending water and metal soaring. Smoke and flames consumed the sea, relentless blasts churning the waves, transforming the Caribbean into a chaotic war zone where every ripple carried death. The conflict surged into space with terrifying speed. Venezuela, backed by allies, used jamming satellites to disrupt U.S. aircraft control systems. The U.S. retaliated with anti-satellite weapons, obliterating a Venezuelan satellite, scattering orbital debris like a meteor shower. In the skies, combat drones from both sides clashed, bursting into fireballs that illuminated the night. Venezuelan hypersonic missiles targeted U.S. ships, but U.S. laser defenses incinerated them in blinding flashes. The war expanded as allies joined, turning the Caribbean into a multinational flashpoint where missiles and black smoke choked everything. Venezuela, supported by allied nations, launched ballistic missiles from land, targeting U.S. bases in Puerto Rico and Florida. The U.S. struck back with a lightning assault, using B-21 stealth bombers to destroy Venezuelan airfields near Caracas. Fires and smoke rose from flattened bases, sowing panic across the region. Other Caribbean nations were drawn to the brink, with Cuba and Nicaragua bolstering borders. The global economy reeled as oil prices skyrocketed, Gulf of Mexico shipping halted. Satellite imagery revealed massive fires and black smoke blanketing the region, marking an unprecedented phase of savage warfare in the Caribbean. The conflict's fallout triggered a regional refugee crisis. Destroyed infrastructure forced millions of Venezuelans to flee, flooding borders into Colombia and Brazil for safety. Refugee camps overflowed, diseases spreading in the chaos as international aid struggled to keep up. The U.S. and affected nations organized emergency relief, but insurgent groups seized lawless zones. Autonomous robots cleared contaminated areas, while international task forces hunted insurgents. The U.S. and Venezuela, facing humanitarian disaster, were forced into a temporary ceasefire, but new rebel factions emerged from the turmoil. The crisis paused the war, but swelling refugee flows and persistent disease threats signaled an unstable future. Somali piracy has haunted the Indian Ocean for decades, with bold raids on commercial ships disrupting global trade. U.S. Navy tankers, vital for fuel supply, patrol these waters to counter threats. In 2025, a massive pirate swarm attacked a U.S. tanker off the Somali coast, igniting a brutal showdown that exposed vulnerabilities and reshaped maritime security. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a midnight assault to an outcome that left the world stunned. At 3:30 a.m. on a moonless night in 2025, the U.S. Navy tanker USNS Supply steamed through the Gulf of Aden, its deck lights dimmed for stealth. Radar picked up faint blips. 250 Somali pirates in speedboats, armed with RPGs and machine guns, swarming from hidden coves. Engines roaring like demons, they closed in, grapples hooking the hull as pirates boarded in waves. Alarms blared, sailors rushed to positions, and gunfire erupted amid the chaos. An RPG struck the bridge, flames leaping as pirates poured onto the deck. The tanker shuddered, turning the calm sea into a frenzy of shadows and muzzle flashes. The crew fought back with ferocious intensity. Marines from an embedded security team unleashed M4 rifles, mowing down pirates in bursts of fire, bodies tumbling into the churning waves. The ship's .50 cal machine guns raked the boats, exploding fuel tanks and fiery geysers that lit up the night. Pirates climbed rails, hurling grenades that rocked the decks, one blasting through a hatch and igniting ammunition stores. Sailors sealed compartments, counterattacking with flashbangs and shotguns in close-quarters carnage. A pirate speedboat rammed the hull, breaching the side, but U.S. helicopters from a nearby destroyer arrived, their rotors thundering as miniguns shredded the swarm. Blood and oil slicked the sea, transforming the tanker into a floating fortress of death. The battle plunged into an electronic maelstrom as pirates, backed by rogue state sponsors, jammed the tanker's radar with high-powered signals. U.S. countermeasures activated, deploying decoy flares that lit the sky like a false dawn, confusing pirate RPGs. Cyber intrusions attempted to seize the ship's navigation, but onboard AI defenses locked them out, retaliating by hacking pirate communications, sowing confusion in their ranks. Drones launched from the supply targeted speedboat engines, exploding in mid-water bursts that sent debris flying. The onslaught expanded as Somali shore batteries fired blindly, shells splashing near the tanker, turning the Gulf into a high-tech nightmare where invisible waves and gunfire fused in pandemonium.
The swarm drew in regional forces as Ethiopian and Kenyan patrols scrambled to the scene, their helicopters joining the fray in a multi-nation shootout. Pirates retreated to shore, lobbing mortars that ignited oil drums on the tanker's deck, flames roaring skyward. U.S. destroyers arrived, their Tomahawk missiles slamming into pirate bases on the coast, leveling compounds in thunderous blasts. Somali militias surged from the dunes, clashing with local forces in sandy firefights amid exploding vehicles. The inferno spread as burning boats drifted, igniting coastal villages, with satellite imagery showing the Gulf ablaze, marking a savage phase of warfare that engulfed the Horn of Africa.
The tanker's survival sparked a global piracy surge as emboldened groups across Africa and Asia launched copycat raids on shipping lanes. Trade routes collapsed, insurance rates skyrocketed, and navies worldwide mobilized in a frantic scramble. Autonomous drone swarms patrolled high-risk waters, but pirate hackers disrupted them, causing collisions. International task forces hunted pirate leaders, but rogue alliances formed, blending piracy with terrorism. The U.S. and affected nations forged emergency pacts, but the chaos persisted, with stranded ships and economic fallout signaling a new era of maritime terror.